Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at Jamer Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me turn my head to check and see if there are any inquiries coming in. Today's guest is world-renowned, award-winning chef En-Ming Hsu. She is a trailblazer in pastry, a teacher, a consultant, and now adding entrepreneur with her sip extraordinary drinking chocolate to her accomplishment. She was team captain of the gold medal winning U.S. pastry team. I'm having a problem here. U.S. pastry team at the 2001 Coupe du Monde in Lyon, France. Other awards include Rising Star Chef of 1999 from the James Beard Foundation, one of the top 10 pastry chefs in America by both Chocolatier and Pastry Arts and Design magazine, and a Lifetime Achievement Award by Paris Gourmet. Let's bring in En-Ming's.
Hi, Dara. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you. I am always curious what the inspiration was to a chef or where it came from. So I ask about the family table. And growing up, was anybody a baker in the family? What was that inspiration? What was the family table like?
So, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. Not too many Chinese there, but we were a very traditional Chinese family. So, our food was always Chinese. And it was just, your typical Southern China, Cantonese style food. My grandmother was living with us when we were younger, and she had a companion, and her companion did a lot of the cooking for us. So that's how we grew up. We did not eat salads. We would invite our friends over and they would have to have Chinese food. Pizza was a rare treat for us. So it was very different. But, I loved it and I was very interested younger when I was, younger age. I really liked cooking and I liked spending time in the kitchen with you know, our I guess you would call her a cook, but she would teach me all of the traditional, but it was different. It wasn't cooking from a recipe book. It was cooking by feel, by taste. So, if I were really feeling very diligent, I would go with my little notebook and try to translate what 3 pinches of a flavoring or 2 dashes of a salt would be. I would try to translate it into teaspoons and something that I could do and replicate later. So that was always fun. But I always remember if I wanted to eat noodles, so noodles was a big favorite
Right.
for me, rice noodles. And we were very traditional. So we soaked rice, we ground it in a rice grinder. So it's a big stone mortar that's like 2 pieces. You run it like a rice mill, and you just sit there and grind the rice until it turned into a paste, and then dry the paste and make the flour. So this is your typical Sunday meal. But if I wanted to eat rice noodles, I had to be there to help make the noodles, make the flour, and this is like one by one, roll these little the rice dough into these little almost like thin torpedo shapes, and make enough for what, 6 people for dinner, or lunch. So that would be our Sunday meal. Sunday we go to church, and then we have a meal of dumplings, or very traditional Chinese
Right.
food, and that's just the best memory for me. But if I wanted to eat something, I had to help make it.
Well, that wasn't bad training.
No,
Not
not
at
at all.
all. I forgot to ask you, other than doing the show today, what else is on your plate to do?
Oh my gosh. I always have like a plate that's overfull, and it's like I'm always thinking, "Why do I do this to myself?" So I went to Utah just to spend the weekend in the mountains, um, and came across on a hike a patch of wild gooseberries. So I actually have never seen, we go up to Utah quite a bit, and we're up in the mountains. The mountains are like 9,000, 10,000 feet. It's beautiful, but if we're looking carefully, we can sometimes find raspberries, wild strawberries. Well, this time I found something that I thought looked like gooseberries, and I just thought, I'll taste it. If I'm okay in about 5 minutes, I'm gonna go pick some. And I did, and then we came across a couple of fishermen, and they said, "Yes, those are wild gooseberries. There are wild currants and wild gooseberries." And, it took me a million years to pick them. They were so small, and, the plants have thorns on them, so I came back nice and scratched, had a few bug bites on me. But I cooked them last night, so I'm gonna make a jelly from them. So I have enough, maybe I'll get about 2 jars from it, but I just do a traditional method when I make a jelly. I cook the fruits with just enough water to cover them, and I cook them for about 30 minutes or so and just simmer them. Then I strained them last night, so the juice is ready to go today. I'm going to take the weight of it and about maybe 90% sugar, add a little bit of lemon juice to it, and then cook it until it sets. And, I think it's going to be delicious.
I'm
But
sure. I'm
I've
sure.
never tried it before, so we'll see.
Well, you ski a lot, don't you?
I do. I do.
But you
I
were hiking, obviously.
We were hiking. Yes, we love to ski, my husband and I. I always say it's not a pretty sight watching me ski, but I have so much fun. So we do enjoy the mountains quite a bit.
Just to let people know, you live in Las Vegas.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So to go to Utah, it's very fast. It's about 3 hours for us to get to southern Utah area. Great area for fly fishing, camping, skiing, all of that. We really like to take advantage of that, and just to get a break from Las Vegas, and especially now when it's so hot.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than being here and just watching all my plants die. I love to garden. It's true. It's true. It's so depressing. But I love gardening. I try so hard. Every year I just say, okay, I'm just going to give up and I'm going to do metal sculptures. People do a lot of these plants now out of metal, and they're beautiful sculptures. And I just said, okay, for every plant that dies, I'm going to replace it with a metal sculpture. It
Sculpture.
hasn't happened yet. I keep trying, but
Yeah.
it's
I
a
want,
challenge.
yeah, I want to tell people a bit about your background because we want to know what brought you to pastry.
Mhm.
You said you were from a traditional Chinese home. So, in listening to a podcast, it's not a home where your parents would be thrilled that you were becoming a chef. Education was the most important thing.
Yes, and that's very typical, for an Asian family that, the most important thing was to be well educated, and being in the kitchen was not something that my family was familiar with. There was always the assumption, oh, you're in this business. Do your parents have a restaurant? And that wasn't the case. But I just always, and this is very typical for a Chinese person to have this obsession over food. It's like I'm planning just days ahead what my whole menu is. And I've been like that since I was a child. I remember instead of going outside playing in the summer, I would be reading Julia Child cookbooks. I would be watching her PBS show. I don't know what it was that drew me to food so much. Of course, I loved eating food, and my family loved food, but I fell into pastry making. First it was cooking, but I went to Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. So I went there for the culinary program, but while I was there, they started their pastry program. And it was just this time when I thought, this is exactly what I should be doing. And same thing, I don't know what it was about baking that really drew me to it. I think maybe it has to do with the precision
Right.
instead of just, cooking, having the ability to cook to taste. I mean, I can still do that in pastry making. And I always attribute that to having a cooking background and understanding solid cooking techniques. But there's a precision and a science to baking that really, I think you either want to do it or you don't want to do it. You have patience for it or you don't have patience for
Right.
it.
And
But
yeah, and you
it's
went to
important.
Skidmore. I want people to know you had a degree before that
Yes.
in in the arts. You took an arts program.
Yes, I did. Very good liberal arts program. I focused on photography and then later jewelry design. And I really wanted to go into jewelry design, but I remember I moved to New York City. I was living in New York City and I was trying really hard to get my portfolio together to do my master's. I wanted to go to Cranbrook, but I just couldn't get that portfolio together. But at the same time, I was cooking already. And I just thought, this is for me. This is what I need to
That's
do. And I
that's
remember
your
I went back to Skidmore. I went to see my college professor, and he was just fantastic. But, he just said, you know what? Everybody has to eat. They don't have to wear jewelry. And it was kind of like his way of giving me his blessing.
and a very aha moment too.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
You ended up at a very renowned restaurant in New York, La Panisse, Grey
Les
Kuntz,
yes, Les Pinas restaurant. It was at the
Les
St. Regis.
Panisse.
Yes, was at the St. Regis Hotel.
Right. Grey Kuntz was doing a different type of cuisine at that time. I think they called it cuisine. I mess up words. Cuisine spontanée,
Mhm. Yes.
which was very unique to him. And a lot of the food that he did was French Asian influence.
Yes.
How did that affect you as a pastry chef and working with him? And what were desserts like then versus now, I guess?
He had a very unique style. I stayed at Les Pinas for 2 years, which was quite long. In terms of how long people stay in a kitchen, we tend to move around a lot to
Right,
gain experiences, but I was there for 2 years because I really felt I wanted to understand his style. So his style, he would be able to go from your first few courses and then land at the dessert seamlessly. And it's difficult to do that. But it had to do with the methods that he liked, a lot of infusions, working with a lot of fruits, um, definitely classic recipes, but the ingredients really turned it so that they were unique. And the style and the presentation was not, during that time, the style was known for desserts as architectural styles. So there
right,
was a lot of building on the plates and, towers of desserts. And, the desserts were all about construction. At Les Minas, it wasn't like that. It was really more for simple plating, lots of fruit dishes and infusions, soups for dessert, ice creams, and so our style was very unique. But I appreciated that opportunity to learn that style because my training was classic French training.
right. So you moved from there to the Ritz Carlton in Chicago, where you spent 10 years and spent the majority of the time as the executive pastry chef. And it was while you were there that you were part of the team for the Coupe du Monde in 2001.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand these competitions. You don't just go, well, I'm working in the kitchen, I'll go there and I'll figure it out. There's a lot of time spent. You became the team captain with some other great pastry chefs, and you came back with the gold. It is the only American team to ever bring back the gold from the Coupe du Monde. You are still very much involved with Coupe du Monde, so I'm going to let you explain the process of the Coupe du Monde now and how people get on teams and what's involved.
So we are now in the process of selecting the 2027 team. So we're doing the national selection in September in Chicago, and we're doing it at Washburn Culinary Institute. And this is part of an organization called the Chicago Baking and Pastry Forum. It's an educational event. We have, luckily, we've attached to this forum, and the forum is all about training, sessions, classes, hands-on classes, demos, lectures, seminars. So we'll have our competition during this event. So it's going to be very exciting. I actually have not been involved with Team USA in many years. It was definitely before pandemic, probably maybe 8 years or so. So a lot has changed. The competition itself has changed. So what we do now is we select a team for the USA in a national selection, and then the team, once they're chosen, they practice again, and then they go to a continental selection. So this is going to be in the summer of next year. It's going to be in New Orleans. So this step is a little bit different. Continental selections are fairly new, I think, in the more recent years. But then whoever is the top performers in the continental selection will go to France for the international selection. So all in all, it's 2 years of preparation. So now USA has reorganized and expanded the organization. So I'm part of this executive board committee. So we're handling all of the planning, but we leave everything up to the candidates. We were actually very happy to have a nice, strong interest in the competition. We have 9 competitors going to the competition, and we'll pick 4. We'll have 3 primary team members and then 1 to be the alternate in case something happens. But it's very rigorous. There's a lot of planning. We have a very strict set of rules. Everything is timed. So right now, so we did I think it was around May when we selected the competitors. So they have all summer to do their preparations. They have 8 hours to do all the products that we're asking them. They have to make desserts, they have to make showpieces, and then we'll start monthly training. So we do ask all the chefs to make sure that their employer understands everything that they need to do. So it's a commitment. It's a commitment not only from the chefs, but from their employers to understand how important this is. And then everybody will just dig in once a month training on their own time.
Right.
It's a lot of work, but it's extremely rewarding. And we're looking for the second gold medal USA team.
Right.
It's been a long time. It was 2001.
Oh, right.
My team won.
The Ritz, when you were at the Ritz-Carlton at these top flight hotels at that time in 2000, it was very, they gave the support to the pastry chefs, whereas most places nowadays, that's a difficult thing. I think they helped underwrite because it made them more prestigious. to say that my chef was this, and there was great support. It's a little bit different now, and I don't think people figure. I think you said when you were practicing, you'd work your 8-hour day and then you'd go practice every night for 5, 6, 7 hours. And it isn't just baking a cake, you're doing a structure, you're doing spun sugar, you're doing all these different things. And it costs these chefs, no matter which way you look at it, they don't have an income coming in or as much supplemental coming in.
Yes, so you're exactly right. And this is, this is a sign of changing times. I was very fortunate when I was competing. I did have the support of the Ritz, and we this was not the only competition that I did, but all the other chefs competed also. There were many different chefs doing different levels, international competitions as well. At that time, it was very important and it was very prestigious. Properties wanted it was almost like notoriety
Mm.
of my chef won this, this is our culinary team. It's a big deal. And to some respect, it still is. But, financial obstacles come into play. And now, with these large corporate, and I look at Las Vegas really as the example. Um, you have to really state your case well to get your property to support you in an endeavor
Right.
like this. And we actually had a fantastic chef who wanted to try out, and he couldn't get his because the properties have to sign off. But it's such a time commitment, and it can be a we are a nonprofit organization, and we've always had great partnerships with companies that sponsor us at different levels. So we are able to fund most of the expenses that we need through sponsors. I mean, we could not do this without all of our partners.
Right.
And we just, for many years, have had fantastic sponsors for that. But it always helps if, you need an order of chocolate that comes from your employer and your property. And those things are always very helpful, but mostly it's the time. But if somebody really wants to do the competition, they're going to understand it, your vacation time. Bye bye to your vacation. This is what you're doing on your 2 weeks off. You're training, and the training is important because we are timed events. So we have 10 hours to get a number of products made and requirements done. If we don't practice that, you, something happens, you're not going to make it. And
Right.
who wants to be up on the world stage and not know what they're doing? I remember so much. I just think I was so thankful that we were well practiced. The first day of the competition, so in France, at the international competition, it's a 2-day event. So day one, God bless Italy. Italy is in our booth. Italy just made such a big mess. And I remember it like it was yesterday, but we had to get in there. We only had something like an hour to get all of our gear in place. If you were late, you were going to lose points. And who wants to lose points out of being late on your prep day?
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of angst to get in there. And I just remember out of the corner of my eye, I saw one of our assistants throw a box into the kitchen, and that box had the one tool I needed to get started with. And I was always thankful that I saw that, because otherwise I would have lost so much time in the beginning on
Looking.
competition day.
Yeah.
But I got it, and but it was just the whole mental stress, and what the mental place where we each had to be in order to get through that day was really big. And I just spent the night before the competition. I locked myself in my room and just thought and restructured my entire plan because we weren't ready. But because we were practiced, we could do it, you know?
You could drop back and
Teaching
punt,
is
as they
different.
would say,
Mhm. Yep. Yep. But lots of life lessons from that
right?
too.
I'm sure. The there's we now have you've left Chicago. You're then consulting and teaching and um, sort of supporting, maybe different manufacturers of products.
Mhm.
So you're doing this, and that's what you've been doing since that time. Am I correct?
Yes, I've actually, I'm kind of phasing out the consulting and, I don't teach now because that all ended with the pandemic, and then I didn't pick it up after that. But yeah, pandemic made so many changes in everybody's lives. And, for me, I was doing the consulting, so I would work with corporations, companies, manufacturers. I would help them with innovation. I still do that with one company now, but it's very, very interesting business and it's very different. But we come up with new products and, whatever capacity that a company would want a consultant for. But I'm starting to phase that out a little bit because my chocolate business is quite busy. But teaching, I was teaching a lot, and during pandemic, we couldn't teach anymore because we were in classrooms. We did
Right.
some virtual teaching, but it's very difficult to do virtual
Right.
teaching well. But
What,
but I
which,
miss that of my life, you
yeah.
know.
Well, I think you said that your students were your inspiration.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I actually have one of my students now, a former student, is one of the competitors on this team selection that we have coming up. So in
Great.
September,
That's
yeah, I'm
exciting.
so excited about that. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. But I'm very proud about my students, and I do keep in touch with some of them. We ran short course programs, so there were a lot of students, but I'm still in touch with a lot of them. And now, of course, there's social media where you can follow what
Every
people are
everyone,
doing.
whatever you
Yeah,
want.
but during pandemic, my sister and I, it was just one of these things where it was like, well, what do I do now? One day I had a full schedule. Next day I had nothing. My husband couldn't work either, so he's a chef. And then we just started spending, we were ski bums in Utah for a while. And then I was just sitting there and I thought, oh, look, everybody's drinking hot chocolate up here. And I was like, I should make a product. I should just buy somebody's hot chocolate mix, do just this big marketing
Repackage.
program and sell this product. And of course, what pastry chef can leave something alone at that? So I had to create a formula and, do my own recipe. Our inspiration. So I'm partnered with my youngest sister. So our inspiration was that, we both studied in Spain when we were in college, and we were very familiar with European style hot chocolate. And, it's a daily routine. You go and you drink your taza and, go on with your day. And I just remember it was so delicious. So we created something that was not quite as intense as the European version, but something that's a little bit richer, more indulgent, premium. And so it's a powder mix that we have, and we sell it online on our website. And we also do markets and fairs, and we sell our packets there. This fall, we're going to do something different. We're going to sell drinks at the Balloon Festival in Albuquerque. So we're
Okay.
really excited about that. And it's either going to be a train wreck or it's going to be really successful.
I was at the balloon festival once, and it's very cold.
Oh, is it?
And
Yes, no, you're right. You're right. It's cold in the morning. Okay, so we have a plan A and a plan B. We're under a tent. So we're going to start, we know it's going to be colder in the morning. So we are not actually on the field where the balloons are, but we are at an art festival. So a separate event off of the field, but we are outside under a tent. It's going to be cold in the morning. So I think our plan is maybe hot drinks to start with, and then if it does get really hot under the tent, then we'll move it to ice. So our product is multi-purpose, and it can be served hot, it can be served cold. So we're going to be prepared for both, but
So
it's
frozen.
really delicious.
That's right. And it isn't just drinking chocolate. Now you sell wholesale to restaurants and organizations, but you have retail, and people can go to your website, which is zipextraordinary.com.
Mhm.
And there are links to your social media, which is Zip Drinking Chocolate. So Instagram, blah, 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 all the social medias, Facebook, and all that information will come up in the comments section so people can get to that. But the product is multifunctional and you can use it in baking. You have recipes up on the website, tips how to make it. So you can do, like you said, the hot, you can do the cold, and you can do the frozen, and different ways of using that. And chocolate. Let's just talk chocolate for a moment.
Mhm.
How do you tell a good chocolate from a bad chocolate?
So what you're looking for with chocolate is the quality. So it's, chocolate is complicated. If you really want good chocolate, you're probably going to say, "Oh, it's not sweet enough. It doesn't have enough sugar for me." But chocolate is in the best sense, if you want all of the benefits from chocolate, and of course, we want chocolate for its heart healthy benefits, flavanols and all of that. It's as minimally processed as it can be. So you're getting all the benefits of the beans. But good chocolate comes from good beans that are traceable. So, this is very important now. We pay a lot of attention to it because there have been a lot of issues with child slavery, rainforest destruction. So we always want to make sure, and for our company, this is very important, that we have traceable beans, that we're working with companies who understand the social aspects of working with the farmers and helping the farmers. Chocolate is going through some really difficult times right now. There are diseases, there's a shortage of supply. Costs have almost doubled in some cases, but it's the price that we have to pay if we want the high quality chocolate. So we're looking at minimal process, lower in sugar, um, well produced. So instead of quickly roasting the beans, they're drying them on the farms under the sun, fermenting them carefully so we get all the good benefits that we want from it.
Right.
But sometimes your marker can be, where do you get the chocolate from? Are you buying them from natural food stores? Are you buying them from specialty markets, from specialty sellers online? That can help you determine. And of course, now there's so much information that you can get online. If you really wanted to make sure that you are getting high quality chocolate and chocolate that's responsibly sourced, you can find all of that information online. And of course, for me as a manufacturer, I'm looking at industrial spec sheets. So I'm really looking into all the details that go into the chocolate, where it's from, um, you know,
How it's
everything.
processed,
Yes,
everything.
how it's
Right.
processed. Yes. Mhm.
And just to let people know, you have 3 flavors on Zip. You
Yeah.
have dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and dark peppermint.
Yes, yes. So we might be launching a new product later this year, which we're very excited about. I I'm not sure that we're going to do it right now. We have to make sure we get a buyer in there, because I don't want to manufacture something and then sit on it forever. But if I get a buyer interested, we're going to do this product. It's very interesting. So me as a chef, I know we talked about this before, and you're talking about, oh yes, baking is just the bane of my existence.
That's right.
Which it really, but I realized something very interesting. For me to make my drinking chocolate, it is so easy. I take the mix, I put it in a pot, I add some milk to it, I stir it, it comes to a simmer, I'm done. It's ready to go. So for me, there's nothing easier. And then you have this delicious chocolate drink. Now I'm starting to realize that just having to pull a pan out to make this drink, sometimes just somebody's going to say, no, I don't want to do it. Too much work. I'm just amazed by that sometimes. That, we're, as a society, we just have everything at our fingertips now. And everything can be so easy, that we just don't want to put something on the stove. But I'm always like, well, you don't have to go on the stove. You can go on the microwave. It's really easy on the microwave. Just watch very carefully or you're going to have a
You have many tips and people and how they can use it, but you can use it in brownies and
oh yeah,
pies and crust and
yes. And I'll tell you this, a couple of weeks ago, I worked with an ice cream manufacturer. So it's a ice cream equipment manufacturer, and we perfected my mix in an ice cream mix. So you can make a beautiful ice cream out of it. I am so excited about this because, on our website, we do have a recipe for, there's a home ice cream machine that's called a Ninja Creamy. So you can just, if you have some leftover drinking chocolate, don't always have leftover drinking, but if you happen to have some, you just put it into your creamy container, freeze it, and then you spin it in the machine. 30 seconds later, you have something that is almost like chocolate gelato. Because there are different settings on the machine that you can set. So it's really
those machines are great because that can become a family affair with the kids to make
yes.
their own.
And mixing. You can just set up a hot chocolate ice cream bar, and then everybody mixes up their little container of creamy. They put all of their sprinkles in, marshmallows, add chocolate sauce, everything, graham cracker crumbs, the whole 9 yards. It's so much fun, and especially in the summer, it's a great treat in the summer. But I was just really excited because I knew it worked, but as far as in the professional kitchen, I wanted to make sure that if you did have an ice cream machine and then you just, it is so easy because ice cream machines now in the professional kitchens or for gelato makers, there are two components. You put all your ingredients in the top part of the machine. You don't have to do anything. You just put them in there. The machine stirs it and then brings it up to the proper temperature. So here it would be just almost at a boil. And then it just sends the mix down to the chamber where the paddle is. And then it cools it and turns it into ice cream. It is so easy. But that's like if you're at home and you're just doing your ice cream maker or your Ninja Creamy, perfect. Or even the blender, leftover sip, you just put it into the freezer, break it up into pieces, put it in your blender, and then you've got a frozen hot chocolate. That is fantastic.
En-Ming, I have a feeling we could keep talking for quite a bit, but it's time for me to get to those questions that I sent to you. And just to remind people, all the information will be coming up. I think Jen is away, so she'll get that posted up for you. She sent me a note that she's stuck in a meeting. She usually sends that information up, but it's very easy. The website is sipextraordinary.com, and the socials are Sip Drinking Chocolate. And if you go to any of the socials, there are links back to the web page where you can purchase this. So it will come up, I promise you. And okay, if you go back, En-Ming, if you can go back and give your 17 or 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
So that would be college years. So for sure, I would have told myself, really pay attention to those classes that, at that time I had no interest in business classes and things like that, because boy, I could use that right about now.
Right.
But also just to really keep those long-term relationships with my teachers and my professors, because they really were so fantastic. And, not everybody can teach, and I had excellent teachers.
That's great. And I think in the podcast that I listened to, that you know, you studied everything about the food business. You were well equipped, but you didn't take business courses, and you're starting a business.
Mhm.
So I understand that comment. All right. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Oh, I'll never forget this one. It really wasn't, that I had a failure, but I was part of the solution for a failure. When I was at the Ritz, somebody forgot to order the wedding cake. And, it's at the last hour, everyone's looking for the wedding cake. Nobody knew anything about it. And last minute, we had to create a way. And it was just the most horrendous experience. The bride was not too happy, and I'm sure the hotel did some concessions for that. But, it was just a really good lesson in what to do when something goes wrong. And our solution was grab every bit of, in hotels, we're really busy. We don't make everything last minute. We make a lot of bases like sponge cakes and things like that, fillings, frostings, those go into the freezer. And then that's how we organize our schedules. So we know, menus that are coming up, all of that. We always have a game plan for how we're going to handle all the daily business. We grabbed everything we could possibly find, and we created a wedding cake for like 500 people or something like that. And it was just such a good life lesson from that. I mean, it was an awful thing that happened, but just just taught us, how do we think on our feet? What do we do with how do we make something happen? And especially for somebody's really special day.
Right, right. Or, think of everything that can go wrong, be
Mhm.
prepared.
Yes.
That might not have been on your list, but luckily, being a hotel, that you had certain things in the freezer. Yep, yep, yep. If, and Ming, you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be?
So I sort of have this talent, but I would really like to be really good at it. I like to fish. So we fly fish. I would like to be a really good angler. And I remember one day we went out to the Grand Canyon area, and we were fishing down there in this really popular spot. And this guy came up to me and he's like, "Are you an angler?" And I never thought about that, and I was like, "Oh, yes, I am an angler."
So, do you throw the fish back or do you prepare the fish?
Catch and release. Yes, yes,
Okay,
unless we've injured it, then we'll keep it. Usually in the fishing situations, it's not so convenient, we don't have the creel with us and all of that.
right,
Sometimes we might keep it, but usually if we injure it, we'll keep it. But it's a challenge, we're out in the wilderness and just, trying really hard to pretend like we know what we're doing.
well, it sounds like you're enjoying life. I know
Yes,
you have the stress of
working
the
on it.
chocolate business, but you're hiking, you're fishing. So,
We
yeah,
try. we don't get
you're
out as much as we want to, but we do, we'll retire one day, and that's on the list, you know?
yeah. What two things are a must to be in your refrigerator?
Butter. I must have butter and eggs in the refrigerator. Absolutely. But now I have a sour starter. So I was never successful with a sour starter, but now that thing has lived in my fridge for over a year now, and it's still doing well. But butter and eggs, absolutely have to have that.
Oh, I'm not surprised with a pastry chef.
Mhm.
If I had said three things, the third one would have been chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Am I
I'm a
right?
eater of chocolate, you know?
And Ming, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
We didn't get into business so much or the state of our industry. Now, I'm a home enthusiast, yes, but also that, I deal a lot with the food and beverage industry on a bigger scale. But, I maybe if you had asked me, how do I manage changing times? And, I don't know that I have an answer for that, but, things are so different now. I've been in the industry for many, many years, and, navigating changes sometimes are really difficult, and especially post-pandemic. Um, um, business business goals are different. There's a lot of budgeting in mind, and a lot of focus on bottom line dollars, and I see that a lot. You know, the kitchen is changing. So rather than having fully staffed kitchens now, we see a lot of companies who wholesale products doing very well because kitchens don't staff like they used to.
Right.
So for somebody like me, that type of thing is very different. It's hard to see your industry change, especially somebody like me who's got classic training, and classics are really important to
Right.
me. Traditional kitchens are very important to me. The tradition of a kitchen. It's hard to see, things like that change. But, business is business.
Right. It changes. I will tell you, I read something, it might have been in one of the bulletins that I get, that chocolate's looking better for this coming year. There's more, and that the prices should be coming down a bit.
I sure
I
hope so.
I don't know where I read it, could
I
Specialty
couldn't get
Food News.
Yeah, I couldn't get my cocoa this year, but I had a heads up that that might happen. So I did some testing. Not all cocoa powders are the same. And we have very steady customers where I'm always concerned that if I do make a change, they can taste the difference in it. But I was able to find a couple of backups, and the prices were still pretty decent, but it's all of a sudden I don't have cocoa,
Yeah.
but I hope, they're not industrial cocoa and chocolate. The forecast isn't looking great over the next year or so, but I'm hoping it improves. And, climate changes and things like that, those do improve over
Right.
time. And then, your supplies go back to normal. We just would like the prices to go back to
The-
normal. For
Right.
small businesses, it's a huge, I mean, this is a really big problem for us right now.
And I don't want to get political, because that would be another whole show.
Yeah.
Um, so let
Yeah.
me thank you very, very much for being
Me.
on the show.
Really enjoyed
Wish
really enjoyed talking with you.
wish you continued and growing success with Zip, and just tell people, you'll have the website sipextraordinary.com, and social Sip Drinking Chocolate, and you can find En-Ming. And I think later today, all the information will be up here and we'll be on to video. Thank you so much, En-Ming.
Thank you, Dara. Great talking with you.
Great talking with you. I have a couple of announcements. Let's see. Next week's guest is former syndicated columnist with the Chicago Tribune and Washington Post, Chip Carter. He started covering the farming world in 2009 and traveled nonstop, learning the ropes. 7 years ago, he started a news media company with the expressed intent and purpose of making a national TV series, Where the Food Comes From, which airs Sundays at 10 p.m. and 1 p.m. on the RFD TV network and YouTube channel. He is just finishing up at NASA and off to Houston. How does one grow food in space? So we look forward to having Chip in next week. Feel free to reach out to me via my email address, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or at Dara Cook's Instagram or on Facebook, The Food Enthusiast. You can sign up at JMore Living for a free bi-monthly This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter, recipes, local food news, and videos from the Food Enthusiast. Go to jmoreliving.com. On the menu, click on Connect, and there'll be an area for you to sign up for that free e-newsletter. All shows are immediately archived in video form on JMore Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always remain full. I hope to see you next Thursday.